If you could just begin by introducing yourself.
Okay, so it's Councillor Andrew Burns, leader of the City of Edinburgh Council and one of the councillors here in Ward 9, Fountainbridge, Craiglockett.
Okay. First of all, if you could maybe just tell us a little bit about the council's targets for cycling in the city and how you're hoping to achieve them.
Right, well there is a target to achieve, I think it's 15% by 2015 of journeys to work by bike. I mean, I think the cycling rates to work in Edinburgh have increased hugely over the last 20 years. Just next month in February 2013, I've been in this bit of Edinburgh for 20 years, and the levels of cycling compared to 1993 when I moved here to today, January, February 2013, have vastly increased. I think it's gone up from about 1 or 2% journeys to work to now about 7, 8, 9%. That's a fantastic increase, but there's still a lot of work to do to, in essence, double that again by about the middle of 2015 towards 2020 to get it up to 15%. But I think it's achievable, but it has to be done on an incremental basis. But if we can keep up the pace of progress of the last 20 years, I think we can do the 2015-2020 targets.
And Andrew, the target you're describing, that's this Charter of Brussels target, isn't it?
2015, I think it is.
Yeah. In terms of the kind of things that you think the council needs to do from now, what are they? Are they infrastructure? Are they awareness? What do you do?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, I think in some ways infrastructure is there. I mean, we're standing this morning on the 4th and Union Canal. It's very, very busy with cyclists during the rush hour in the mornings and in the evenings. And there's lots and lots of off-road cycle networks in the north of Edinburgh, in particular, in the east of Edinburgh. So in some ways infrastructure is there. I think what we need a lot more of is promotion of that infrastructure, but also then linking that infrastructure up and having, yes, to use on-road elements to link it where possible. And things like the bus corridor that's just opened up between the University King's buildings and the University in George Square are links that are required, and we've got to get the details of those right. I know there's been some criticism of the details of that. We've got to get those links correct, got to get the details of those links correct, and we've got to promote them better.
Will facilities like the canal towpath be able to cope with 15% of journeys?
I mean, I think that is going to be a challenge. I mean, I cycle along this towpath every morning and most evenings coming home as well from work, and it can get busy and there are conflicts. There's no point in saying otherwise between pedestrians and cyclists. I have to say the vast majority of pedestrians and the vast majority of cyclists behave in a responsible manner, but it only takes 1 or 2 fools to make a small problem seem much larger than it is. So there is an education issue, an information issue that we need to tackle as a local authority, as a council. But I think all of us, we're all pedestrians, lots of us are cyclists as well. We all need to show a degree of responsibility and mutual respect. Most of it comes down to just common sense, using a bell, slowing down at the bridges in the canal, but it will be challenging, there's no doubt about that.
You mentioned the quality bike corridor, which was opened recently.
Yeah.
That's been quite heavily criticised, and I can kind of see why. It's very fragmented, and an awful lot of the route doesn't seem to, for example, protect the cycle route from parked cars, which would seem like a really basic thing. What lessons are you learning from that, and is there anything you can do about it now it's already been done?
I mean, I have taken the time to cycle that with some of my online critics of the infrastructure that was put in. Because whilst I'm a daily cyclist in this bit of town, I don't know every single cycleway in the city. So I did go and cycle the QBC a few weeks ago before Christmas, and I saw for myself some of the elements where it's the detail of the design could definitely be better. So those have been reported, hopefully they are being followed up, and I see that on bits of my own daily route. I go up Middle Meadow Walk every single day, Monday to Friday. At the top of Middle Meadow Walk, when you enter onto before you get to George IV Bridge, the cycleway veers off to the right, and the crossing is to the left, and it's just a simple, very small detail that I think gets lost between the design and the implementation of that piece of infrastructure, and we've got to get better in that, because I know as a cyclist that it infuriates cyclists. I get infuriated by that every single morning, so we do need to get those details correct. And hopefully we can learn lessons from the things that didn't go 100% correct on quality bus corridor, and we can make quality bike corridor. We can make sure that they are better implemented whenever we put more lanes in.
So how can we do that?
Well, we need to involve organisations, like Pedal on Parliament, like Spokes, like CTC Scotland. We need to, Innertube. We need to involve all those groups, organisations, in making sure they've got a say. And I think we're relatively good at that. And they were involved in the QBC, the Quality Bike Corridor, but somehow between the design and the implementation, some minor details, you've highlighted some, and I've highlighted some, didn't get implemented correctly, and I think somehow we've just got to make sure that we get the implementation better, because I have a sense, and challenge me if you think I'm wrong, but I have a sense that the input into the design is often adequate. It's the implementation of the design on the ground that is where it falls down, and I think we've got to get that implementation improved.
Well, in terms of that, in terms of consultation and getting people's points of view, there is an ongoing campaign to get proper segregated cycling for Leith Walk, and I know that just a few days ago a very comprehensive
I've read it.
proposal was put through by all the community councils in Leith, 4 cycling organisations, and kind of championed by Greener Leith. Now, with something like that, where you're going to resurface Leith Walk, it's being described as like a once-in-a-generation opportunity to do something really great there. What's going to happen?
Well, I can't be 100% certain about what's going to happen, because whilst I think the consultation is now closed just at the weekend there, and I've read the Greener Leith and other organisations' submission, and it is very comprehensive and detailed, and I've asked officers to make sure it's properly, fully considered. But I'm not in a position just now, because the consultation is just closed, to know for certain what's going to happen. But I think it really is important not to overblow the expectations here, because whilst I accept what you say about it being once in a generation, you also said it's a resurfacing of Leith Walk, and that's exactly what it is. It's a resurfacing of the main carriageway and some works to the street infrastructure and the street furniture going down both sides of Leith Walk. And there's a limited budget for that, and it's been done as part of a rectification of the works that were abortive in a sense for now, to do with the tram. So it will be coming back to Leith Walk in due course, but there's a limited budget for resurfacing the street furniture. It probably won't be enough to put a segregated cycleway all the way down Leith Walk, and I think it's as well to say that openly and honestly, but I can't be certain of that until we've looked at all the feedback and we've assessed it. But there are in the draft plans elements of cycle provision at the main junctions, at the roundabout at the top at Piccadilly Place, and that's where I think we've got to get the detail right on those sections, and wherever we can link it up further down the street, we should do.
The thing about all of this, though, is obviously a difficult time in terms of budgets, but the kind of countries and cities, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, that have got this right, invested, and they invested in it a long time ago. So how do you get around that? Because those cities have obviously managed to get way more than 15% of people cycling.
They have.
But they, and you had people from the Dutch embassy here, last year, and they said, well, what you really need in this city is safe segregated cycling, fewer cars, and slower speeds and stuff like that. Now I know some of that you can do, but the infrastructure, if you can't afford it, how are you going to get those people cycling safely?
Well, it's a combination again of this building on the infrastructure we've got. This is not a segregated cycleway, but it's a segregated walkway and cycleway. It's pretty safe. There's no traffic here. We've got lots of this. Okay, this is Scottish waterways, Scottish canals, but we've got lots of cycleways, walkways like this in the city. We've got to promote them better. We've got to make the linkages better. And then when it comes to achieving the 15% target, I think we've just got to be pragmatic and realistic about doing that incrementally. I don't think we're going to see a one-off massive step change. We've just got to try and make sure that we incrementally build. And as I said earlier on, when I first came to Edinburgh in '93, I think cycling was down at 1 or 2% journeys to work. It's now at 7, 8, 9, depending on which figures you believe. And I acknowledge we've got to double that again, but it's gone up by 500, 600, 700% over the last 20 years. We've just got to keep that pace of change going. But it is challenging, because we've got, as all local authorities in Scotland have got, a circa 2% cut in our budget, and it is difficult. There's lots of demand, lots of pressure, not just from the cycling community, but from all sorts of other communities to deliver on aspects that they want to see in the city. So it won't be easy, and I'm not sort of pretending it'll be easy. It's going to be very, very difficult to reach that target, but I do think it's achievable with a concerted effort from everybody. I welcome the lobbying and the pressure, and the input from the cycling organisations. I really do welcome that, because I think that helps educate all 58 elected members about the benefits of having more people cycling to work in the city.
On a more positive note, you've set the bar very high for Edinburgh.
Yeah.
The Scottish Government targets are 10%
Yeah.
of journeys for cycling. Edinburgh's 50%.
Yeah.
And I understand that's due to this commitment to the Charter of Brussels.
Brussels,
Is Edinburgh still the only city in the UK that's signed up to that?
To the best of my knowledge, there might be another local authority down in England that's signed up. I honestly don't know, but I think Edinburgh's the only one that's signed up in Scotland. You know, frankly, if the Scottish Government achieves its target of 10% for the whole of the country by 2015, I think it is as well, that would be fantastic. You know, but I think because that's a big leap for many cities. Because I mean, going back to your question about being positive, and I think we sometimes fail to be more upbeat about what has been achieved in the city. I mean, compared to most British cities, except the university towns, Edinburgh's got a fantastic level of cycling to work rate. It can be better, yes, but you know, we should sometimes just reflect on how positive a journey we've had in the last 15-20 years, as I've already said.
Now, in terms of things that maybe can be done without lots of spend, as I understand it, in Denmark, they have a policy whereby when you have snowy or cold weather, they actually, like today, because it's very icy, the canal's frozen, they actually grit and clear the cycle paths first.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I think all of us cyclists will have noticed is that there isn't really gritting of cycleways. The cycleways you were mentioning as being a great asset for the city, they're not really gritted or cleared at all. And I know that you recently fell off your bike a couple of times in icy weather. Have you got any thoughts about, is it possible maybe to just change that fairly simply, or is that a complicated thing for the council?
No, it's not overly complicated, and whilst it's partly correct what you said, it's not 100% correct, because there are some of the major cycleways that are gritted. I mean, the one we're standing on this morning isn't the responsibility of the council, like Scottish Canals, and they're pretty good at gritting this canal side path. But there are a couple of priority 1 cycleways that are gritted on a regular basis, and during the last cold snap in December 2012, there was a lot of concern and queries about whether it was being done efficiently and properly. I followed all that up, and you know, I'm tempting fate here, but since the cold weather in the last few days, I've actually had quite a lot of positive feedback about how they have been better prepared this time round compared to just a couple of months ago. So I think there are several priority 1 cycleways that are gritted. I accept that it's not all of them across the city, but there are several priority ones that are gritted at the same time as priority 1 footways.
You should mention, of course, you cycle to work, to the council offices pretty much every day.
Yeah, well, we're standing in Shandon, and I work in the city chambers obviously most days, so most Mondays to Fridays I just cycle in and out on mainly on the canal. I think it's National Cycle Work 75 most of the route, so that's 2 miles each way. It might not sound a lot, but it's 4 miles a day, 20 a week, 1,000 a year. So it does all add up.
And how long does that journey take you?
It's quick. Probably if I'm pressing it, you know, I can do it in 10-15 minutes. If I'm taking it easy, 20-25 minutes. So it's as quick as the bus, and you know, I thoroughly enjoy it. And, you know, as many people know, I've been a long-term cycle tourist. You know, I've been a cycle tourer for 30 odd years now, and I'm actually a CTC Scotland member for 31 years this year, so I've been a cyclist for a long time, but I've been commuting daily for about 6-7 years now, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
In terms of, you know, your experience of cycling on the road, obviously there's this issue, isn't there, as cycling becomes more and more popular and more people start doing it, the number of accidents is going to go up, and I think it already is. Last year was a 5-year high for accidents in the UK. Quite a few. There were 3 cyclists, I believe, that died in Edinburgh last year. And one of the things I was wondering, you've mentioned how much it costs to put in good infrastructure, but isn't it also, well, there's possibly going to be tragedies involved, but isn't it also going to be very costly for the council if people start to have more accidents, start to come off their bikes? I know there was mention of, you know, 1.6 million potential pounds in lawsuits because of just accidents related to the tram works and the tram lines. Wouldn't it be worth finding the money now to put in infrastructure to avoid some of those accidents and potential damages?
I mean, there's a balancing act here. I mean, I have to start from, you know, the absolute statement that for me, one serious accident is one too many, and we've got to do everything we possibly can to try and avoid that. Every single one is obviously a personal tragedy for the individual and the families involved, and as I say, every single serious accident is one too many. Over the course of the last 15-20 years, the accident record for cyclists in Edinburgh, I know it wasn't good last year and the year before. Over the longer course of time, in the last 15-20 years, it has been very, very positive. And there was a spell when I was actually transport convener back in the early 2000s where there wasn't a single fatality for about 5 or 6 years. Now sadly that has altered in the last few years, and I deeply regret that, obviously. But there is a balance, because the more people that cycle, I think the better, for all sorts of reasons. And the more people that cycle, then I think that adds to more awareness of cycling. So I very much welcome that, and I don't think it automatically follows that because more people cycle there are more accidents. And there's complicated statistics around all this. There's actually more accidents in Denmark and Holland for cyclists than there are in Britain. But then when you break it down per head of population, it's higher in Britain than it is in Denmark and Holland. So it is complicated, but more people cycle, obviously in those continental countries, but more people have accidents. But we have less people cycling, less accidents, but per head of population, it's not as good as Denmark and Holland. But accidents won't go away by getting more people cycling. But I do think we just need to get the balance right between making sure we spend what we can on safety measures and infrastructure without discouraging cycle usage too much.